Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Here was a sign on the side of a pickup truck for a lawn mowing service, and it said, I came, I mowed, I kicked grass. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, Patriots, get up and call for the pledge. Good morning. And a good morning to you and yours. Zeb at the Ranch on a Monday. And I got to tell you, it was a little tough getting out of bed this morning. August 19th already, my goodness sakes. And our major sponsor on Zeb at the Ranch, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best of safe driving tires. You stop in and see them today. And along with some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And also Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, you did a wonderful, wonderful job. Thank you for starting the week off right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
I will, thank you. Oh, my goodness, it's time to go to the weather, and the weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South 600 West of Hayburn. Hello, Roger and the crew. And believe me, you can contact them for any information on available tools and equipment and talk about both long and short-term rentals. They've got all the best tools and equipment to finish up any kind of a job you need to get done. All you need to do is stop by and see them at 256 South 600 West of Hayburn, right on the Burley-Paul Highway, or give them a call on the landline 678-3122. And right now, here's the weather.
Grab your water bottle and keep it handy because it's going to get warm over the next couple of days. Here's a look at your weather forecast as we kick off this work week. For today, we are expecting sunny skies, highs of about 91. Tonight, nice and clear with a low of 57. Pretty much the same for tomorrow, sunny, low 90s, 93 for Wednesday. Looks like Wednesday evening, some clouds are going to be rolling into the valley. Looks like a slight chance of some storm action as well. Low of 58. Those clouds are going to stick around for Thursday. Partly sunny skies, cooling off to about 84, then back up to about 90 for Friday. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you very much. And brought to you by K&R Rental. And, of course, they're located and easy to find right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. Call Roger if you have any questions and the rest of the crew at 678-3122. K&R Rental. Wow, we have got a full plate of great, great people today. We've got Richard Manning. We've got Gregory Wrightstone. We've got Fred Birnbaum. We've got Dan Perkins. Woo! It's going to be a great program. Don't miss a minute of it. I want to remind you, too, about our friends over at Daryl's Cleaners, and they are located at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Hey, we've been taking our clothes in there for a long time, many years, and the best of dry cleaning, and everything comes back looking brand spanking new. I urge you to stop in and see them today at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And if you don't have time to do your washing, they'll wash, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes, just like Mom used to, at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. As a matter of fact, I'm going to head in there today. Want to also remind you that a company that has been in business well over 6 decades serving you, Ramsey Heating and Electric, and I really appreciate what they do, how they do it, and how they treat their folks. I'll tell you what, they are there to serve you very efficiently with all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, and they're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, and the number to call is 678-0459. That number again, 678-0459, open 7:30 to 5, Monday through Fridays. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Wow. Beautiful weekend. And sadly, very sadly, we're going to be running out of them. Oh, my goodness sakes. A lot of schools are starting, and my only plea out there this morning is simply this. Drivers, I don't care what the vehicle, whether it's a car, a pickup, a great big truck, a motorcycle, whatever, please watch out for the kids. They are in what's called a run mode, going back to school, and they're all chirping and yelling and screaming and everything. Be careful and watch out for the kids out there, please. Very, very dangerous time right now. And until they kind of settle down a little bit and they know the parameters and they know, well, we got to go to this crossing and everything, and just take it easy out there. Everybody be careful, please. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant, and they're located at 611 North Overland in Burley. Now, here's the big deal about Denny's Restaurant for this week. We're going to be over there on Thursday for Lunch Bunch. Yes, it's the August Lunch Bunch at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, 611 North Overland in Burley, for the best of breakfast, lunch, dinner, anytime, all the time. I hope you'll show up and be with us. We've got a lot of door prizes to give away, too, from Walmart and Smith's Foods, Hanson Mortuary, Stokes Groceries, Doug Martin, Denny's. We really appreciate all those good folks. So please join us Thursday at 11:30 for Lunch Bunch at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Going to be great. All right, your turn. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. If you're not following the news and listening carefully to what's going on, you can easily be misled, misguided, and then be totally of a misunderstanding of what's really going on. The Democratic Party, they're not stupid. They're not stupid, but they are very, very calloused in their approach to what they want to do to make America their way only. I'm really concerned because I said 2 weeks ago on my program, and I'm going to take the credit for this. I'm sorry, but if you're offended by that, that's too bad. I'm going to take the credit for this statement long before others jumped on my bandwagon nationally over the past couple of days. I said, caller stand by, I said the Democrats were going to use the economy to destroy President Donald Trump's reelection hopes. And a lot of people say, well, what do you mean by that? And I came out and said that they're just going to keep preaching and hammering that there is something wrong. There's going to be doom and gloom. There's going to be a recession. Everything's going to fall apart at the seams. And that's exactly what they're doing. There is, and underline these words, there is no data. right now, this very minute this morning, to prove that any recession is coming into our economy and that we're going to see a flip-flop and people financially are really going to get hurt. None whatsoever. But the Democrats are preaching that to try to create a smokescreen against President Trump. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly.
Well, Zeb, you're absolutely right. I mean, they'll put out this lie, and a lot of people are just going to believe it, so everybody starts hunkering down. Well, maybe I shouldn't go out and eat. Maybe I shouldn't go buy the new car I was going to buy. And so they get everybody believing it. And it wouldn't go anywhere if it wasn't for the Democratic extension in the mainstream media. You know, they just take the Democratic agenda and run with it, and so they're part of it, and it goes on and on and on. But pretty soon, people are not doing what they would normally do, and they buy into this lie, and so the economy starts faltering because, and like I said, it's the only way they're going to get rid of Trump is for the economy to fall flat on its face. And if we buy into this lie, and some of the other talk show hosts have said the same thing that you're saying, but you pointed out, you've been a leader in pointing out a lot of these things, and I appreciate it very much. And the fact that we don't want to buy into this thing. The economy is generally doing good. I will say that the farmers and the dairy people here, and again, it's because of bureaucrats, our poor dairy people, they got a big demand for their product, and the price of dairy right now is controlled by bureaucrats clear back in the northeast part of the country.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Well, Adrian, you and I both know that manipulation, that is the key word right there. Manipulation of any idea can create a negativity in our society. And that's what the Democrats are depending on right now. They're depending on manipulation because they don't have a candidate that can beat President Trump. I don't care what anybody says. They don't have a concept that can beat President Trump. They don't have anything as far as social justice or the economy or any worldwide views that are going to help more world security. They don't have anything except they've got the seeds of doubt and hate, and that's what they're depending on. They're depending on the doubt that the economy's all of a sudden going to go into the recession. And you said it very succinctly. By keep saying it over and over and over again, people buy into this idiocy, and that creates the problem.
Well, I think it was one of Hitler's chief aides. You tell a lie often enough, and people are going to believe it.
Yep.
And that's really scary. So we just need to, make sure we know what we're talking about. And there are segments of our economy that have some problems. And we've got, the dairy thing I think is very critical in this area because here we're depending on these dairy guys. But I can tell you that, generally the overall economy, Trump has created, millions of jobs, and people are, and it's mostly the blue-collar workers that have been benefited by that, and they keep telling the lie that, the blue-collar workers are being abused and no social justice. Oh, my gosh, it goes on and on. I mean, it's sickening to hear this day in and day out, and we just don't want to participate in this recession they're talking about.
Absolutely. Adrian, I really do appreciate your comments. I got another call waiting. God bless. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a great week.
Don't forget, caller, I'll be right there, I promise. I want to remind everybody about Ark Animal Hospital. Wheels, I'm going to ask you quickly, my old buddy, my old pal, are we coming through nice and clear, or is there a little fuzziness on the line? I heard something.
On my end, you're coming through clearly.
Okay.
I will continue to listen to it.
I appreciate it, buddy. It might be my 39-cent headset. Who knows? Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Hayburn. Don't forget they have the best of care for your pets and your livestock. You do not want to just misabuse or treat any animal you own to the point where, hey, they're sick, so what? No, never that attitude. You always want to take the best of care of of your kitty cats, puppy dogs, dairy cattle, horses, whatever. And they, Ark Animal Hospital, are there to help. Believe me, when there's a health issue, please call them at 678-1177. That number again, 678-1177, Ark Animal Hospital in Hebron with Dr. Bill and the crew. And it's really true. They do have the warm hearts for the cold noses. By the way, I wanted to do something after the Cache County Fair this last week. I was gone on Thursday, and I just want to give a review again and thank all the Cache County Fair merchant sponsors, Butte Irrigation in Paul and in Kimberly, Mountain Transmissions on East Main and Burley, Mini-Cache Chamber of Commerce, thank you, Penny, very much, and also Burley Veterinary Hospital, we thank them, and Golden Valley Warehouse, we want to say thank you to them, Kelly's Bearings, Magic Valley Irrigation, and again, Mountain Transmissions, thank you for all your sponsorship help. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
I think you got it covered.
I hope so.
Anyway, my theory is there's 22 people, or who knows, it changes from day to day, that are running for the Democratic presidency. And why are all these people sticking around? Every one of them have got something in mind, and that is, I'm never going to be president, but I think I can be a vice president. Did that ever enter into the equation?
Oh, I'm sure. We've talked about that on numerous occasions, that there's going to be some playing, if you will, of the top of the deck for, I'm a good guy or lady, and I know this and I know that better than anybody else. Oh, please, Mr. Biden, if you get the nomination, consider me to be your vice president. But you know something, Keith? I'm going to say this morning, I do not think that there is any one of the 22 or 36 or 97 candidates on the Democratic Party that are at all qualified, underline that word, to be president of the United States. President, not vice president, but president. None have any ability as far as I'm concerned.
You're right on spot there, because none of them really shine. They have their moments. They'll go somewhere to a state fair or something and shoot off their mouth and everything, and they'll say, oh, he climbed 2 points in the poll, and all that kind of stuff, but it's just rhetoric.
You made a very good choice of words. None of them really shined. That's really a key. There hasn't been a spotlight on any one of the Democrats for their knowledge or their ability to be enlightening or educated or show what they can do better or help America. Your words were very well accepted right there. None of them have shined. As a matter of fact, I think they've had a power failure.
Well, pretty soon they're going to eat their own, so to speak. They're going to start attacking each other like mad dogs and trying to eliminate as many people as they can. And it's going to get ugly, I'll guarantee you that.
Oh, I can't argue that. As a matter of fact, I totally agree. Keith, it's good to hear from you. Thank you so much. See you at Lunch Bunch on Thursday. Appreciate it, my friend. Thanks.
Hey, could we change the Lunch Bunch to Wednesday?
No.
It's my wife's birthday.
Well, she'll be there the day after. She'll be the belle of the ball. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We'll see you.
All right, take care. Thank you. Caller number 2, I'll be right there, I promise. I just want to remind everybody, it's that time of the year again, and my old buddy Jerry Zollinger and Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch, they are planning, and the plans are formed for the September 7th great big quarter horse sale up at the ranch in Oakley. This is one of the premier best horse sales anywhere in the United States, and they've been breeding quality quarter horses for over 70 years, with the best of bloodlines, the best of disposition, the best of quality. I'm talking about a sale you as a horseman or woman do not want to miss. This is the great big 2019 September 7th Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch horse sale up in Oakley, and I'm telling you folks, put it on your calendar, September 7th. Do not miss it. Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch with the best of horses for you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Deb. Can you hear me?
I can now. It was really faint. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, please.
Okay, well, I have two trains of thought. One, this Talib or whatever her name is, and is going to go to Israel, and now Israel says, no, you can't, and whatnot, and the other one. Israel has every right to say who can and cannot come into their country. It's just like you as a homeowner. You have every right to say, no, I don't want that person in my house. You know, but the Democrats are turning around saying, oh, they're racist and all that stuff. Well, they forget that they're anti-Semitic.
That's right. You know, let me just say something about Rashida Tlaib and also Ilhan Omar. And there may be some people that might be offended by this, but I really couldn't care less. These women that represent the squad of the four freshman congresswomen that have invaded our Congress with their absolutely distorted attitudes of our American Constitution and everything, they're only there for one purpose, and I want to see if you agree with me, and that's disruption and absolute denigration of any of the rules or moral values in our country. I can't stand any one of them, and I would love to see them run out of office during the next election.
I couldn't agree more.
Well,
For my other train of thought.
Okay.
While I'm thinking about it. Okay, you have these people, and I'll just use Rosie O'Donnell as an example because she's the one that comes to mind. If Donald Trump becomes president, I'm moving to someplace else. Well, tell you what, why don't you move someplace else, and we'll trade body for body, and we'll get somebody who's intellectual and wants to be here.
What is
every one of those?
Yeah, what is so bad? Please help me on this. Rosie O'Donnell, I mean, she's got the mental capacity of perhaps an alligator. I just do not understand when people say, well, if he's elected, I'm going to leave the United States. Where are they going to go where they can shoot their mouth off? And where are they going to go where they can have any affording of freedoms like we have here in this country, even today, and the greatest constitution and all the wonderfulness of America? Where else are they going to go? Are they going to go to Siberia? Are they going to go to, let's see, someplace up in Iceland? Where are they going to go?
Exactly. Well, and also those who want to stomp on the flag and burn the flag, you don't like that flag? Go live someplace else. We'll get some of those people out of Hong Kong who are singing the national anthem, our national anthem, and waving our flag because they believe in what we have. We'll trade you body for body, and let's see you go stomp on China's or Hong Kong's or name a country. Let's say you go do to their flag what you do to ours.
You know, you are spot on. I always look forward to visiting with you because I know it's going to be a great conversation. Thank you. God bless you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
You. God bless you.
All right. Thank you. Nice lady. I'm going to give away some cookies right now, and I've got the easiest question. I mean, I hardly even get the question out of my mouth. I think we'll have an answer. And we're going to give away a dozen cookies to Sophie's Chatterbox. For some reason, I just keep hiccuping. There's nothing worse than a hiccup when you're on the air. Anyway, Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street on the square in Rupert. The very best of a bakery, the very best of a restaurant. Oh, my goodness, wonderful food. You're going to love it. And if you're the lucky winner, you call them and let them know when you'll be by to pick up your dozen cookies, okay? Here's the question today, and it's so easy. What was the full name of the movie where star Dick Van Dyke flew around in an old car? What was the full name of the movie where star Dick Van Dyke flew around in an old car? Call me right now at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Holy moly, we got a caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, I think it was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Who is this?
This is Willie from Utah.
Well, you call this number, 436-0354, and you tell Sophie's that you want to get those cookies, okay? All right, Willie. Hey, listen, thank you for your call, but please call them and let them know you're the winner, and they'll get everything set up for you on a trip through so you can pick them up. Appreciate your call. Thank you.
So who do I call?
Sophie's Chatterbox, 436.
Chatterbox, okay.
Yep, gotcha. Thanks, appreciate your call. Thank you much.
You bet. Bye.
There's our cookie winner, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And there's the winner, and he will call over to Sophie's Chatterbox. I'm trying to do 37 things and then talk to Deanne, too, on the side. So calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I took economics naturally like we all did in high school. I didn't. Some of the courses I wished I would have really studied hard or harder in high school and college, and I hated them then. Now, I wished I had much more knowledge about the basics. You know, it's funny how our lives change and our thinking changes and everything. But one of the things that I keep hearing thrown around here the last couple of days by the Democrats when they say, oh, we're going to go into a recession. And on CNN and MSNBC and all the negativity, oh, well, this is like an old Western false front building. This Trump economy, why it's going to come apart like a house of cards. Why negative, negative, negative. No, it's not. No, it's not. There is, and I want to underline this right now, from my own personal research and also listening to many of the top economists in the country over the weekend, there is no data right now to prove any recession is looming on the horizon. It is a verbal push by the Democrats to create a fear so that you will not vote again for Donald Trump. And they keep using, and if there's any economists out there in the audience that want to call and help me on this, please, they keep using the terminology, well, this is according to an inverted yield curve. What? What is an inverted yield curve? That all of a sudden is going to be a beacon on top of a hill for the Democrats to say, see, I told you, we're going to have a recession. It's coming according to this inverted yield curve. What the heck is that? Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call, please. I talk about Bernie Sanders in just a minute. This man, Bernie Sanders, why? I mean, how? Who could ever support him? And it's amazing to me that he can come out and say some of the absolute dumbest things that I have ever heard in my life, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Right now, I also want to remind you about our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. Oh, my goodness sakes, they are busy every day supplying you with the best of heavy equipment for all the lifting and the digging and the pushing and the carrying and everything else and the grading and the leveling. Oh, look out, Berry Equipment and Rental. And 3 locations to serve you. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. You know something, and it's not brag, it's a fact. You just call them, tell them what you need. They've got absolutely great financing programs available for the purchase. They've got great lease programs for the equipment that is going to get the job done. Berry Equipment and Rental, Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Get a hold of them today. Folks, our society, whether you believe me or not, just look around, we're really kind of falling apart at the seams to the point where lawlessness, no respect for law and order, or respect for authority, or respect for what's right, and the denigration of what's wrong, we're falling apart at the seams. And Bernie Sanders has come out and said that as part of his justice reform, that he would like to see no death penalty. No death penalty. They're just put in prison, a little slap on the wrist, and given certain time served in prison, and possibly down the road they'd be even let out. There wouldn't be anything as far as a harshness against someone that had taken another life or lives. And then, another thing, he wants to let thousands and thousands of people out of prison. Well, they've served a little time. Let's put them back on the streets. Let's put them back out there so we can pay them welfare. Let's set them back out on the streets so they can create more havoc. And then he wants to have, this is the part that just took my mind and went, pooh. He wants to have safe needle injection sites so that those that are hooked on drugs, those that want drugs, why, they can go get the heroin, they can go anything they want, and go to these safe needle injection sites and shoot up. What kind of a society is that? No laws, no regulatory means of having a civilization, and just absolutely invite more drug abuse, more drug havoc, invite more criminals to do as they wish upon the public. There's not going to be any ramifications. Why, we'll just go out and shoot 10 people, and then we'll just sit here and maybe do a little time, and then we're out on the street. What is going on with our society? No law, no respect for law. And like what happened in New York City, a mob over the weekend, I think it was on Saturday night, just absolutely throwing and dropping things on some police that were investigating a crime. And it could have killed some of the police with some of the items that were being dropped from high elevation, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories up. We're looking at chaos. That's what the Democrats are sowing and trying to seed in our society. Total chaos. And if you want that, then I guess you're the one out there in Radio Land that's going to take that little black marker, and when you go to the polls, you're going to vote for a Democrat. God help us all. God help us all. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, I've got another question for you folks in a minute about Joe Biden, so don't go away. Want to remind you that the Magic Valley Stampede at the Twin Falls County Fair is going to be on August 29th, 30th, and 31st, and it is now part of the PRCA Pro Tour Series, which means it's one of the big ones, one of the good ones all across the country. Tickets are available right now at www.twinfallscountyfair.com. Don't forget, this is going to be quite an event this year. The great big Magic Valley Stampede, part of the huge Twin Falls County Fair and Rodeo, and the rodeo, of course, with the PRCA Pro Tour Series, August 29th, 30th, and 31st. For more information, get a hold of our friends at the Twin Falls County Fair office for the great Magic Valley Stampede. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. If you got a candidate, help me on this, audience, please. If you got a candidate that's running for any office, you would assume that the best thing to do for that candidate is to get out there and kiss a lot of babies, shake a lot of hands, and do a lot of news interviews, have a lot of stories written about that prospective candidate. You know, you're out there all the time, and you're trying to gain momentum with the voting public. But not the case with Joe Biden. You know, I was reading a story last week in the newspaper, I think it was Wall Street Journal, and they're talking about hiding Joe Biden because he's too tired. And because Joe Biden makes too many gaffes, too many mistakes. So what they thought they would do, some of his handlers are saying, well, if we stick Joe out there today over here at this event, he might say the wrong thing. And Joe was up late last night. It was 9 o'clock, and he didn't get to bed and get his full 9 or 10 hours of sleep. Maybe we better just shelter him a little bit and send somebody as a spokesman. What? They're trying to literally save Joe Biden for 2020 by not putting him in front of the public? And that's the kind of president and leader that you could possibly want for the United States? Somebody that has to go into kind of a cave at night, the Bat Cave, and take a little nap? And then maybe for a couple of hours during the day come out with Robin and they run around in the car and try to run the country? Are you kidding me? This is insane. Absolutely insane. There is not a candidate. There is not one single candidate on the Democratic ticket that shows any real power to take over and run this United States of America with any optimism whatsoever. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
There's one way we could eliminate a lot of these people who are running for president is the fact that they should have a law that says you can't run for an office when you already have one. If you're going to have to, if you feel that you're good enough to qualify for that new job, then you need to leave your old job.
And Keith, what you said, there's a lot of merit to what you said, because if they're a senator from a certain state or a congressman or whatever, and they're supposed to be serving their constituency, and all of a sudden they use it to stump all over the United States for the hope of becoming the president, they've hurt their people back home. They've really hurt the people that put their trust in them to go do a job for their state and their people. I totally agree. I think that there should be a change. There should be a special election. There should be anybody to go in and fill that vacancy, because they are using that post of a senator or a congressman to try to catapult the interest over to the presidency, and I don't think that's fair.
Well, let's look at it this way. You've been advertising for a salesperson all the time. Okay, I can qualify for that, so I go to you and say, I want that job, Zeb. And you said, okay. And while I've got the job, I'm on the phone trying to get a better job.
Yeah.
That pays more money. That's what it's all about.
Well, yeah, but but here's the other point to your story about you doing that to me. You'd be very short-lived. You'd be gone.
Well, I do it secretly.
Okay. No, your point is extremely well taken, and whether it's Kamala Harris or whether it's Joe Biden himself or Bernie Sanders or Yang or anybody, your point is well taken. I mean, the confliction of interest right there on what they agreed to do and what they're supposed to do is absolutely atrocious, and I think that they should either have special elections and get rid of them or something, because I don't think it's fair to the public. Keith, very, very good point.
Thank you.
All right, my friend. Take care. I'm running late, so bear with me, and then we'll take some more calls. I want to remind everybody about Dino's Septic Service. Oh, yeah. You don't want to be out there pumping a septic tank. Ugh. You don't want to be out there trying to take care of liquid waste removal or sewer and sink drain line cleaning. No, you don't want to do that. For heaven's sakes, call the people that do, the pros. Dino's Septic Service. Yes, 436-6526 or 678-1638. Now, I mean fast, fair, friendly service. These people are so good. I know, because they've done some work for us. And I'll guarantee you they will be there and do the job so efficiently. Dino's Septic Service. Absolutely, with that big truck that says smells cargo on the way. Dino's Septic Service. I got to get a weather forecast on here really, really fast, and the weather this hour is brought to everyone by Mount Harrison Audiology. They care about the medical treatment for your hearing health. Absolutely, and I've urged you for a long time on this program to get a hold of them and schedule a hearing health appointment. Don't forget the number to call, 312-0957. They are right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. That number again, 312-0957. You call them today. And they are Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Grab your water bottle and keep it handy because it's going to get warm over the next couple of days. Here's a look at your weather forecast as we kick off this work week. For today, we are expecting sunny skies, highs of about 91. Tonight, nice and clear with a low of 57. Pretty much the same for tomorrow, sunny, low 90s, 93 for Wednesday. Looks like Wednesday evening, some clouds are going to be rolling into the valley. Looks like a slight chance of some storm action as well. Low of 58. Those clouds are going to stick around for Thursday. Partly sunny skies, cooling off to about 84, then back up to about 90 for Friday. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina, thank you very much, and brought to you by the people that really, really care about your hearing health, and they are really good as far as finding solutions to your problems. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and again, that number to call for a hearing screening appointment, 312-0957. As you know, over the many weeks now, I think it's been almost a month and a half, I have been kind of clamoring against Idaho Power and their lack of professionalism for not coming on this program and answering questions about their going green energy. They say 100% green energy in about 20 years. I have a lot of questions, many of which may be good questions, many of which may be some naive questions about green energy and the changing of our electrical grids, etc., to green energy. But these are still questions that need to be answered, and Idaho Power has run and locked themselves in a room and decided not to come on the program and discuss this with us. One of the things that I've been thinking about over the weekend, and a question that I would love to ask one of their representatives if they weren't too cowardly to come on the program, is how much more land will be purchased or agreements made on more land, maybe even the use of our public lands for these solar farms and wind turbine farms. How much more land? Where's the money going to come from as far as the possible purchase and or rental or whatever? And are the ratepayers going to absorb those costs? These are questions, and I think what we're going to do in a very subtle manner every day on this program, come up with a few questions for Idaho Power that, they can poo-poo, and they can say, well, everybody knows the answer to that. But they're not answering because they're hiding under their desks. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir. Yeah, what I would like to know on this Green New Deal, what is the life expectancy of those solar panels? What is the carbon footprint that it takes to make them?
Mm-hmm.
And will they pay themselves off, or will they just keep costing us money?
Do you have to answer that, Doug?
No.
Oh, okay. No. Okay. Right there, we're going to stop, and we're going to define what you just said. All of those questions are on a 4-page question list that I have compiled to ask Idaho Power if and when they ever decide that they want to come on the program and answer questions that the public should and wants to know. And I can't give you the answers You don't know the answers, but we'd sure like to know before we are engaged in a 100% green energy program, which could put Doug Martin and Zeb Bell at a much higher rate-paying experience.
Well, and look at this. You want to go green energy. How green and renewable is hydro?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what emissions does hydro put out into the air?
My fear, and I don't know if you agree with me on this or not, we've never discussed this, but my fear, and I have no basis for this, and I want to kind of give a disclaimer before I say this. I do not know this to be fact. I'm just speculating. But I am very, very afraid of maybe the discontinuance and the non-use of certain dams in the future that I'm very concerned about. What are your thoughts?
Me too. Me too. There's people saying if we eliminate all the dams, we'd have more fish up here.
Yeah, right.
If we eliminated all the dams, most of Minidoka County, about half of Cassia County, would be underwater every year when the runoffs come. I mean, the dams made the Magic Valley what it is today. We eliminate the dams, we're turning this place back into a desert, and we're going to start eating sagebrush.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what about our farming? What about our agriculture? What about our schools? What about our communities? What about everything? What about the growth of the state? What about a total destruction of our economy? This state would be history.
Yeah, and look at the Oakley Valley. You know, that dam there doesn't produce any electricity. But it could be set up to where it could produce electricity when the farmers are pulling water out.
Yeah.
I mean, it can go through a turbine and then let the farmers irrigate it. I mean, there's double use on the water.
But there again, though, Doug, there are questions. You are an astute businessman. You've been a businessman for many, many years. You have questions. You deserve answers. I am also a ratepayer that has questions. I deserve answers. But for them to say, well, we're not going to answer these peons. We're not going to come on your program. We're not going to give you any information. That absolutely is a crime against us.
Exactly. That's just like we only had one store. Just say Burley only had one store, Walmart, to go get everything you need. There were no other stores. So they could do what they wanted, do the prices what they wanted. We need to have, instead of Idaho Power taking care of this area and United Electric, there should be 3 or 4, and we can say, okay, we want to go with these guys. We want to go with these guys. And let them compete for their business, but they've got a captured market. You know, you have to buy from them. You can't buy from anybody else.
Well, you've hit the nail right on the head, the same as what's going on with the insurance companies against the single payer with our government. Once you have a single payer, one size fits all, buddy, you better bolt the door because you got trouble.
Exactly. No competition.
That's right. Doug, always appreciate you.
Do what we can for our seniors. I know I've been absent for a while, but I've been kind of like running around with chicken with my head cut off. But let's do what we can for our senior centers. Let's support them. And the Rupert Senior Center is having a raffle, so I'll have some tickets at lunch bunch.
All right, Doug. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. Caller, I've got about 2 minutes. Go ahead real quick, please.
Yes, along with those questions you asked about the solar panels.
Hold on a second, Riley. Wheels, we are not getting very good coverage here. I need you to really boost him up, please. Go ahead. Go ahead, Riley.
Yeah, I was just saying, along with the solar panels and the wind turbines, I want to know what's it going to cost to clean that mess up. Because, from what I understand, them solar panels aren't made out of friendly material. You just can't go down and recycle. And half the stuff in those windmills, they're not very environmentally friendly either. So what's the point?
Well, you know, you're bringing up absolutely excellent questions, Riley, that need to be answered. And we could spend, honestly, 2 or 3 program segments of an hour per segment on this program answering questions about the efficiency, answering questions about the cost, answering questions about what it's going to do to our economy, answering all these questions. But when Idaho Power has this very arrogant attitude of saying we're not answering anything, that absolutely is despicable.
Like I tell people who want to get all lippy about, I drive a electric car. I said, that's great. You know, you're being environmentally friendly up until the point when you decide to discard that car. What are you going to do with the battery?
There you go, buddy.
What are you going to do with all that kind of stuff? Because you can't throw it away.
There you go. And these are all valid questions. Riley, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. We're almost out of time, but I want to tell everybody about our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, the best. Underline that word best. They are the best at what they do, and serving you with the best of all the safe driving tires that you need for all your vehicles, your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, camp trailers. Oh boy, get ready to head for the hills. Hunting season around the corner. And I urge you to stop in and check out all the great tire buys, along with the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. All of this and so much more, but always the best of service to you. Please stop in today to your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. Yep, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run to the news. I'll be back in 7. Don't you go away. Oh, good morning, and welcome back. On Monday, August 19th, I'm Zeb at the Ranch, and of course, we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best of safe driving tires. Thank you very much. And also some of our great advertisers, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And, of course, don't forget to Greystone Crossing, Independent Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Always at your disposal is exactly right, and I urge you to call the number 734-6969. Get on the route service, and they'll come by once a week, pick up your garbage. It's gone. Wave goodbye to your problems. Absolutely. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. That number to call, 734-6969. Want to also remind you about some other really, really good folks that have been with us on this program for a long time, and they are always there to serve you and your family when there's the passing of a loved one, and that's, of course, Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with Joel Heward, his family, and his staff, serving you and your family with the best possible support and comfort, always, and underline this part of it, always with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. They will help you. Please call the number 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert, and Joel Heward also serving you and your family at, of course, Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. One quick note before we go to our guest. I'm going to be down there again today at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. They can help you get back to being you. That's exactly right. Any aching and painin', they can help you at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And the number to call to make an appointment, I urge you to do this, 678-1191. Nick Greenwell and all the absolutely excellent physical therapists serving you at Burley Physical Therapy and and rehabilitation, all the exercises, the hydrotherapy pool, all of it to help you. 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, 678-1191. It's Monday, and after all the clutter of the weekend and all the news that really didn't amount to much, but the Democrats are trying to make it bigger than what it is, we go to the president of Americans for Limited Government and say good morning to Richard Manning. Sir, how are you?
Doing well. How about you, Zeb? You doing well?
I am. Really, it's been a wonderful summer. Sure, we've had some warm spots, but, that's all part of summer. And unfortunately, I think a lot of that's going to be coming to an end very shortly. But one of the stories that I wanted to ask you about this morning is if you keep standing out in the middle of the road saying there's going to be a problem, the sky is falling, and pretty quick, someday after you say this, yep, you're going to get a thunder shower and there will be portions of the sky falling. That's what the Democrats are doing, claiming recession is going to hit the Trump economy. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I am not a stock picker or anything like that. So I will give you my thoughts, but just don't use it as investment advice in any way, shape, or form. Our economy has ups and downs. There are natural ups and downs. What the professional naysayers are looking at is something called bond inversion. And it is true that when the 10-year bond, the Treasury bond, gets a lower interest rate than the 2-year Treasury bond, over the last 9 times that that's occurred, it has signaled that there will be a recession at some time within the next 24 months. Now, what I found significant about the news feed coming into the show was that they said that 2% of the economists think it's going to be this year, and 38% think it's going to be next year. But what they didn't say is 60% of people don't think it's going to be in the next 2 years. Okay? Because if 2% think this year and 38% think next year, that means 60% said, no, I don't know, or it's not going to happen for another 2 years until after 2021. And the fact is, there will be a recession. I can tell you unequivocally, there will be a recession. I can also tell you unequivocally, I don't know when it's going to be. I can say that it will happen in a way that nobody expects, because all the great stock pickers are always wrong on this stuff, and and so as a result, everybody who jumps up and down and says that there's going to be a recession and thinks that there's finally a chink in the Trump economy, the truth is, they're not wrong that there will be a recession. It just may not be for 3 years. Yeah, and it'll be based on all sorts of other things that happen. It has absolutely nothing to do with the China trade stuff. That's a political push that they're making. What it has to do with is a business cycle that has ups and downs. And quite honestly, Zeb, I think the business cycle has got a lot more up in it, simply because it hasn't run at very fast pace. It's been running at 55 mile per hour speed limit at 40 miles per hour for about 8 years during the Obama administration, and now it's gotten up to 50 miles per hour. It's still not the speed limit, and we have some. I think there's some legs left in the economy, because quite honestly, it hasn't run very hard for very far.
Yeah. Don't you think, with your expertise and your study on this every day, Rick, that this is just, and I'm not going to call the Democrats stupid, not at all. I think that they have some very powerful minds that are sitting there going, gee whiz, Trump's economy's doing really good, but hey, let's plant a seed. Let's say that there's going to be a great big recession. Let's start planting that seed on CNN and MSNBC and everything. And pretty quick, maybe they won't buy the car. Maybe they won't buy the house, etc. We'll plant the seed. The economy's going to heck in a handbasket. This is pretty sharp ploy by the Democrats, is it not?
I think that's exactly what it is.
talking down the economy is really the way that they can actually cause a recession, because the economy is extremely strong. Consumer spending is extremely strong. And yet we don't have any inflation. Consumer spending is strong because wages are up, and people feel comfortable being able to spend money. And consumer spending is a major part of our economy. So you have what is effectively a consumer-driven increase in GDP increase in consumer sales, and that's what has been, but a large part of what's been driving the economy. So you have this. So what you have is the Democrats see that, and I wouldn't just say the Democrats. I say some of the left sees that. The media empires see that, who don't want Trump reelected. And so what are they going to do? They're going to try to convince people that they ought to be storing their nuts rather than spending them. And they ought to put off purchasing a new car until next year, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And so they're trying to inject a little bit of fear into the economy. And by injecting fear into the economy, people, when they are fearful, tend to hold close. And when they're not fearful, and they expect that they're going to be able to keep their job, when they expect they're going to be able to get a better job, have higher pay, they do things like they buy houses and they buy cars and they buy big consumables. And when they do that, the economy roars. So, that's what they're trying to do. I don't know that anybody actually believes them, but that's what they're trying to do, is create a mindset. The real challenge in the economy is a little bit different. It's in terms of consumers. It's that millennials are launching later, sometimes for a lot of different reasons. But by launching, I mean by doing things like buying houses, engaging in family formation, those kind of things. Part of the reason is student loans and student loan debt, which is the equivalent of a mortgage payment for many kids. Now, when I say kids, I'm talking about people in their 20s and early 30s. But also, culturally, the demand to go and engage in family formation has been put under such attack that we're not seeing people getting married at the same rate. We're seeing choices to have children being put off until the 30s, and the women who are making those choices may or may not recognize that they may see people on the tabloids who are having kids in their 50s, but there's a really, really good chance that's not them. They have a short time frame in which to be able to have families, and the idea of having one kid or two max has kind of been beaten into their heads. And I've become at least partially convinced by my vice president of public policy here, who's been yelling this for 5 years, that the single problem that the Western economies have is that we have not had replacement population. We haven't seen population growth, and as a result of failing to have a robust population growth, it's really hard to grow the gross domestic product, grow the economy when you have no population growth. You look at China, Europe, they both have negative population growth as a whole in terms of a native population. And and as a result, they are finding themselves in huge problems economically. And we're not as far gone as they are, but for all intents and purposes, that's the danger. And so he's always yelling about how people need to have more kids and stuff. And I look at him and say, well, you're in your 30s, you have more kids. I'm not. I don't get to. So I keep telling him it's his job, but he's not doing his part as aggressively as he should. So.
Changing gears just a little bit. I could tell you were grinning a little bit. But changing gears just a little bit. Over the last 10 days, I got to admit I've been a little bit more than shocked that the Democrats and party leadership would say, oh, well, now just a minute. Joe's a little tired, and, well, he makes a lot of gaffes, so we're not going to send him out to this dinner, or we're not going to have him go out to that gathering because, oh, well, Joe's got to be in bed by 9 o'clock and take his sleepies and have a good 10 hours of sleep, or he might make a gaffe. So we're going to hide our candidate until just before the election, and then we're going to spring him out and he's going to win the presidency. Isn't that what the Democrats are doing with Biden?
It's stunning. Yes, it absolutely is what they're doing with Biden. It's absolutely stunning that they would think that a job as challenging and difficult as being president of the United States, where you literally have to be consuming massive amounts of information and being able to retain it and be able to make decisions based upon there's always unknowables, and you can't be paralyzed by the unknowables. You have to be able to discern things. You have to be robust and energetic. That instead, we got a guy who, their candidate appears to be a guy who can do one appearance a day and be worn out from it. And in that appearance, they've got to clean up his mess because he's busy talking about how he's had calls with Margaret Thatcher in the last week. So it's I don't know how they sell that, but it's what they're trying to sell, and it's I trust the staff will take care of it. Don't worry, the elected leader's just a figurehead anyway. He doesn't really matter. The people he appoints, the people who are running him, will take care of everything. Don't worry, the technocracy will take charge. You'll feel safe with people who you don't know running the government, because ultimately, Joe Biden doesn't appear to be up to the game, and I don't have any ill will towards him in this regard. I feel badly for him, but but even when he's on his game, he has 40 years of being wrong on foreign policy.
Yeah.
So maybe being off his game gives him a chance of being right, because he won't be stuck in his whole thought process where he was always wrong. But I can't imagine the party that's trying to sell youthfulness going with a guy who will be 77 years old and unable to remember who's the head of Great Britain. And I just find that incomprehensible.
Yeah, but right along those lines, what about Bernie? I mean, I sat there and took notes on his new social justice programs and what he wants to do to turn literally thousands of people out of prison and stop the death penalty and have safe needle injection sites so those people can shoot up and enjoy their day. My goodness, where are all these kooks coming from in the Democratic Party?
Well, it's when you were the Democratic Party today are essentially two elements. Well, I'll say three elements. You have the environmentalists. You have the ragtag. I'll use Rainbow Coalition from the Jesse Jackson days, but not I'm not talking Jesse Jackson. I'm talking the Rainbow Coalition of the various misfits and the like who are march the streets all the time. And you've got the people who have been Democrats their whole life and are looking around and are saying, what the heck is going on? And it's that latter group that I don't need them to agree with me. I'm not going to agree with them on a lot of things. They're more liberal than I'll ever be. But they need to get a hold of their party and say, we're not going to turn our party over to the misfits and miscreants. And that's what's happened. And it is and if they don't grab back control of their party, they're going to find very quickly that they're not going to have anybody that they have to vote for in this upcoming election. By the way, if you wanted to make a case, you can make a case. If you put the things Trump's done in terms of the prison reform, the sentencing reform issue, and a lot of the things he's done in terms of the inner cities, in terms of trying to grow jobs for African Americans and Hispanics, and the success he's had. if you just looked at his record, a lot of those people who are, because of the orange man bad syndrome, won't even look at Donald Trump, they would actually sit there and say, Donald Trump's done a pretty darn good job. The focus on the inner city that he put on Baltimore, which goes all over. He's talked about Detroit, he's talked about Chicago, and he's talked about L.A., San Francisco. The focus he's put on trying to create the inner city, recreate the inner city so they are vibrant once again, is incredibly important. And yet, and it should be an issue that the Democrats are all over. But because it's their failed socialist policies which have caused the cities to deteriorate and crumble, they can't look at it with a fresh eye and say the very constituents who we thought we were helping have been harmed. Let's figure out if we can do it a different way, because it scrapes away all of the veneer of compassion that they have when you see that it's really not compassion. Socialism isn't compassion. Socialism is about control. And the fact they won't take a fresh look at the inner cities where their compassion has put people into desperate cycles of poverty for generations, that tells you that what they really want, they don't want those people to grow into self-sufficiency and to grow and have better lives. What they want instead is control of their votes. That's all they care about. And so that veneer of compassion has been scraped away to being really what it is, nothing more than raw power grab.
Absolutely. Let me wrap up this morning. I've got about 3.5 minutes left in this segment, and I wanted you to discuss, and I'm going to bite my tongue a little bit in my throwing this out at you this morning, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. I cringe and get mad and white-knuckled every time I talk about them or the so-called squad. To me, they are nothing more than a derogatory force that's hurting our government and hurting our government's chances to try to become better. What are your thoughts on these women?
Well, let's just go to Tlaib. I think that she revealed everything we needed to know about her when she made the impassioned plea to the Israeli government to be able to come and visit her grandmother, and who's 90 years old, and so I want to go visit my grandma. And the Israeli government said yes. Now, you're not going to come march around Israel saying bad things about Israel because you don't even recognize Israel's right to exist. But we'll let you, for humanitarian compassion purposes, visit your grandma. And then she immediately said, no, I can't go there in such an oppressive environment. She revealed everything that there is to have that you need to know. It isn't about wanting to visit your grandma. It is about humanitarian. It's about, once again, power and control, and it's about trying to create a Palestinian state that drives Israel into the sea. That's what it's about. And whether it's Omar, whether it's AOC, whether it's Tlaib, whether it's Presley, or any number of the Democrat socialists who are pushing the BDS movement, the divestment movement out of Israel, they are all one and the same, and that they use a compassionate face and have a compassionate argument, but it's really about destroying the Jewish state in Israel, and that's all it's ever been about. And and we've seen anti-Semitism throughout the history of time. It was roundly rejected in the United States, and now we're seeing it raise its head again. And as always, it's raising its head from the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm. Rick, you did it again, hit it out of the park, just like Anthony Rizzo last night in that game against the Pirates, and I appreciate it. Richard Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government. God bless you, my friend, and we'll see you next Monday. Thank you so much.
Hey, Take care, buddy.
All right, take care. Great guy and very, very knowledgeable, Richard Manning, and we're honored to have him be a part of our program every week right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Hey, by the way, I want to remind you, too, about our friends over at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Hello, Jeff and the rest of the crew. You know, they've got all your flooring, all the luxury vinyl planks, and they've got all the carpeting. They've got everything for the beautification and comfortization of your home. Now, listen, I know it's still August, and you're thinking, oh, we still got a lot of summer left. Well, we do, but it's not going to be too much longer, and there's going to be a chill in the air, and you're going to be spending more time indoors. So why don't you take care of that comfortization and all the beautification of your home right now? Maybe you need new furniture. Maybe you need those new carpets. Maybe you need that luxury vinyl plank. Maybe you need a brand new recliner. Well, all of this and so much more at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. I'll say the name again. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those really good people today. I know somebody else you need to stop in and see, too, and believe me, you are going to be looking at a lot of fun. Fun! Because this is where the fun is sold, and that's Let's Ride. Oh, my goodness sakes, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. Let's Ride. Now, the 2020 models are coming in right now, and that means that you can save a lot of money on the 2019 models. So get in there right now, all the watercrafts and the side-by-sides and the four-wheelers. Woo! You get into this great location, check out all the accessories and a super service department to keep you running. Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, and it is true where the fun is sold. Absolutely. I'll tell you what, there's a gentleman on my program that every time he's on my show, I look forward to visiting with him because he's just a straight shooter. Absolutely. He knows what's going on, and he's not going to flower it up. He knows about all the idiocy of climate change and the left saying the sky is falling, etc. Well, we're going to be talking to the author of Inconvenient Facts, the science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know, written by Gregory Wrightstone. Gregory, good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being back. I love being back on with you, Zeb.
Well, I tell you what, I kind of am going to turn the questions and the answers over to you a little bit more today, because you know what is going on in the news more so than I do. You know what's going on with these extremists. You know what's going on with these people's thoughts as to how they want to convince us that we need to move into a cave and burn buffalo dung. What is going on that we really should be concerned about this morning?
Well, I think the big story relates to a commentary I wrote last week on the El Paso shooter. And one of the big story there that I think is being unreported is his radical environmentalist beliefs. This doesn't get reported very much. They want to focus on his white supremacy. I read the El Paso shooter's manifesto, and there's no doubt that he hated immigrants, and he had some pretty radical racist views, like he wanted to partition the United States into segments and moving one for each race to be put there. He was so there's no doubt about that. He also decried the Hispanic invasion of Texas. And so it was. There's no doubt about that portion of it. But underlying all of this was this radical environmentalist belief and really what's called a Malthusian philosophy of overpopulation of the world. We needed to basically thin the herd. And he referenced in the opening of his manifesto where he admired the Christchurch shooter. That's the one in New Zealand that killed 51 Muslims at a couple of mosques. And that Christchurch shooter also held these what we'll call eco-fascist ideas of overpopulation. In fact, the New Zealand shooter called himself an eco-fascist multiple times in the manifesto that he wrote. And we could get the best sense of this. I'll read a couple portions right out of the manifesto. And he said, in this, he says, the American lifestyle is destroying the environment of our country. The decimation of the environment is creating a massive burden. And then he goes on to say, y'all are just too stubborn to change your lifestyle. So the next logical step is to decrease the number of people in America.
Oh, boy.
If we can get rid of enough people, then our way of life can become more sustainable. So he truly believed that overpopulation is destroying the planet and the world, and he bought into this notion of this Earth and humanity that's coming to an end in 10 or 12 years, instead of the view that I have, backed up by science and facts, of a thriving and prospering Earth. But these two weren't the only eco-fascists, the only ones that held a view of radical environmentalism. If you recall back, the Unabomber also had extreme eco-fascist ideas.
Right.
And he was targeting industry leaders, heads of lumbering and organizations that he viewed as destroying the planet. So the big takeaway I have in all this is that, Zeb, I don't know any white supremacist. I've never met one. At least I don't think I have. Probably none of your listeners know anybody like this. But you know what? I have talked to and communicated with a whole lot of people that believe, as this guy did, about the environment and how we're destroying it, and that humanity's on the edge of apocalypse because of what we're doing to the planet. So there's a whole lot of people that have been radicalized by people like Al Gore and the rest. And it goes pretty high. David Attenborough, which everyone, I think most of your listeners are familiar with. He of the fame of makes wonderful documentaries that happen to be skewed left. But he stated, we are a plague on the earth, is what he thought about humanity. And Prince Charles said that he wanted to be, if he was reincarnated, he wanted to come back as a deadly virus to wipe out the humanity. This is Prince Charles. And then there's a whole list of people that I've found that have advocated for jailing, and worse, people like me, climate skeptics, who dispute the notion of man-made catastrophic warming. And I get hate. I get hate quite a bit. And in fact, I just got an email here 2 days ago. I'm going to quote you part of it. This is part of what I get. Have fun with that, you money-hungry pig. You don't belong on this planet, you bleeping virus.
Oh, my goodness.
This is the kind of stuff. These are the same. These people have been radicalized with people like AOC and Al Gore, everyone out there, spewing alarm and hate and fear. And you know, we've talked many times about this, the necessity for governments and institutions to spread fear among the population, because otherwise we wouldn't accept things like the Green New Deal or the Paris Climate Accord, things that would be economically crippling to our country, that would be economically painful for every single citizen in the United States, would drive up costs for just about everything. Why in the world would we accept that? The only reason we would accept it is if we indeed are standing on the edge of a precipice, and if we don't change and quit our, what I call the sins of emission of CO2, that these one horrible thing after another would happen. But I don't see that, Zeb. I see, we've talked, and I'm a huge proponent of the many benefits of rising temperatures and increasing CO2.
Absolutely.
An Earth that's thriving and prospering and greening, and humanity's benefiting from it. And I look in the rearview mirror of history, and I see nothing but just huge benefits that keep accruing, with longer life expectancy, more food, lessened pollution, and as getting better and better, but they look forward and see nothing but doom, despair, and destruction.
We have a caller, and then I've got a comment on mine also. And caller, go ahead, please. You're on the air.
These people will stop at nothing to prove their point, even though there is no point to prove. In other words, they'll let the forest burn to the ground and blame it on global warming when it's not that at all. It's mismanagement. Just like Bill Maher said the other day, he would ask for an 18-month recession that could turn into a depression as long as we got rid of Trump. And, there is no logic to that, because Trump has made the economy roar like it hasn't ever. And so the logic, there is no logic, but they would murder you and I to to get rid of us. And when you think that that's extreme, and I know you know that, but these people, you cannot ever, they would do anything. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, if you would, please, Greg.
Yeah, he's right. They want to. It's kind of, now, where was it? Was it Cambodia or Vietnam where we had to destroy the country to save it? Mm-hmm. And that's what they think we need to do, is destroy us in order to save us. So your caller's right. These people are radicalized. It was just a year ago. In fact, I'm traveling in St. Louis where I was confronted by the Antifa protesters. I'm going back there again in a couple of weeks. And, we'll see if the Antifa people show up again. These people they've been radicalized, and I'm fearful of what might happen, because my wife and I talk about it. We need to be careful, but I'm not going to shut up. I'm going to keep disseminating the facts, the science, and the data that dispute what we're being told and the alarmist intentions. And it's almost on a daily basis we see new climate alarmist catastrophes proposed, and I've exposed several of those myself. Probably the most recent one was this idea of mass extinctions going on. There was a UN report that came out that stated that there will be 1 million, up to 1 million extinctions over the next several decades. And, that would require 25,000 to 30,000 extinctions per year. I went back and actually looked at the same data that they looked at and found that extinctions have been declining, and significantly, over the last 80 years, and that the average, remember, it would require 25,000 to 30,000 species going extinct every year. Using the exact same data set, I found the average annual extinction by species was 2 per year. But yet they're saying it's going to increase up to 30,000 per year pretty quickly. That just doesn't add up. None of your listeners will believe that after they hear that. But if you read the UN report, it's reported with some authority. And I tore it apart. And it's really the biggest, we've talked before, the biggest loser in this whole thing is the scientific process. The scientific process has been stood on its head, and scientists are abusing science and facts to advance their own political agendas.
Greg, I make no bones about it. Wheels, we got a little bit of feedback on the line there. I've made no bones about it on this program, and I will stand up proudly and say that I'm a Christian. I believe in God, and I believe in everything the Bible has testified to us. That being said, I honestly believe that's part of the problem of today's society, with the Chicken Little crowd. The sky is falling, everything is going to be doom and gloom. They've lost sight of God. They've lost sight of hope. And I think that's where our society is right now, torn between the Chicken Little nonsense people and a lack of hope. Would you agree or not?
Oh, I would. I'm a contributing writer for the Cornwall Alliance for the Stewardship of Creation. And if your listeners are interested, that's cornwall.org. They provide the basic philosophy here is one of we believe that we should use all of God's creation for the betterment of mankind.
That's right.
And do it as good stewards. And that's a great, great philosophy to have. It's you'd be surprised how many people would be opposed to using all of our resources for the betterment of mankind. They don't want that. They want us to condemn billions of people to continuing generational poverty by providing them only extremely expensive, unreliable, intermittent energy from renewables, where they could be lifted up out of this poverty and energy poverty through abundant, clean, affordable energy sources that allow them to get out of their desperate situations.
Let me ask you this. I think we talked about it about a month ago, but I want you to reiterate your position on this. Your book, Inconvenient Facts, the science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know. Are you making inroads to teachers in high schools or grade schools or anything to read your book, study your book, and really understand the true facts? Or is it being pushed aside and said, no, we can't touch that with a 10-foot pole? What's going on?
Yeah, inroads into the public schools, that's a difficult situation because what I have to say is pretty controversial. I can't even get into our own church. I'm a member of an evangelical Presbyterian church, and they have monthly talks where they bring in people through the week to provide that. But you have a pastor that just thinks what I'm saying is dangerous, so I can't even get in there. It was banned from my book was banned from my own public library that's 2 miles up the road. Yeah, so what they need to do is stifle and squelch what I have to say. But you know what I'm getting out there, Zeb? Just in the last few weeks, I've traveled. I've spoken Beaufort, South Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm traveling tomorrow to Scranton, Pennsylvania. Spoke last week in Wichita, Kansas, to a huge convention. There are almost 900 people. I was the luncheon speaker, featured speaker, and then I'm back off to St. Louis again. And so getting it in schools is a difficult thing. What I do find is, as I'm traveling around, a good representative sample is the person you're sitting next to on an airplane, because that's a random process. And consistently, I find people are thirsty for information. I usually travel, when I'm going there or going back, I have 4 books I keep with me in my bag, and I rarely get to my hotel, my destination, with any books left. People are really interested in finding out the facts and the science that don't toe the company line on climate change. In fact, the last guy flying to Wichita, he actually bought 2 books. He bought one we got off the plane. He said, I got to get that. And he bought 2 books, one for himself. He says, my brother's going to love this. And I've had, interestingly, I was next to an insurance, pretty high muckety muck with an insurance, and he was just dead set that climate change was leading to huge catastrophes, because he could see it in the monies that the insurance industry had to pay out. And then we got into it, and I showed him the science and the facts, and then he realized that he hadn't realized until that point that he's conflating damages from a hurricane that happened to hit a wealthy area or fires that took out California. He looked at the data I had on that, and he said, wow, that was amazing. He hadn't really considered that when I showed him that the number of fires had actually declined significantly. He was flabbergasted.
You mentioned something a minute ago, and I've got a few more minutes left in this segment, but you mentioned about your church and about your pastor. This is a scare for me, and I've been fighting this on my program for a long time, Greg. Today's ministerial associations and the new crop of ministers, if you will, they seem to have gotten away from the Bible and what God says, and they're more concerned about what man says, and that, to me, is going to be a major problem in the near future.
Yeah. Well, it's troubling to me. I'm gonna make another go. I'm gonna hopefully, because I spoke at another church. We had a men's group there that invited me, and the guy that was my sponsor, he just assumed that I could speak at our church as well. And he said, Greg, he says, you wouldn't believe the hate that I've gotten from people I've known for 40 years. He says, I thought these people were my friends. He said, I had 3 people from our church. When I told them I wanted to have you speak, that he said he says, I never saw it coming. I never could believe that these people would be so opposed to having you speak in the church. And their opinion is that, in their opinion, the right thing to do as Christians is to move away from fossil fuels and embrace renewables. We have to cut, they want to embrace the Green New Deal and all the rest, where you and I believe that that's just opposite as Christians we should do. We should be providing low-cost, reliable, abundant energy to our fellow citizens.
Absolutely.
So he was dumbfounded, and he said, boy, it was like a shot in the nose to him that these people would be so opposed to having me speak. But this is an emotional issue. We get that a lot from a lot of people, that it's driven almost, it is an emotional, it's their religion in some cases, this environmentalism.
Every time I talk to you, I learn something more, and it creates more questions, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the program. The author of Inconvenient Facts, The Science That Al Gore Doesn't Want You to Know, Gregory Wrightstone, thank you, my dear friend. God bless, and I mean that, and come back soon.
Thank you, Zeb.
All right, sir. Thank you. You ought to read the book, folks. Get the book, because I'll tell you what, it is absolutely excellent, and it lives up to its name. Inconvenient Facts, The Science That Al Gore Doesn't Want You to Know. Written by a man that absolutely does know, with over 35 years of experience as a geologist and a student of what really is going on. Gregory Wrightstone, thank you very, very much. Oh my, we've got to get a weather forecast on here real quick, and the weather is brought to you this hour by our friends at Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Good morning. Providing accounting services to the Mini-Cache area for well over 50 years. My, the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, financial statement preparation, retirement planning, all of this and so much more, with offices in Burley and Rupert. I'll give you the location, 1710 Overland in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. Please call them and let them help you today. The professionals, Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Grab your water bottle and keep it handy, because it's going to get warm over the next couple of days. Here's a look at your weather forecast as we kick off this work week. For today, we are expecting sunny skies, highs of about 91. Tonight, nice and clear with a low of 57. Pretty much the same for tomorrow. Sunny, low 90s, 93 for Wednesday. Looks like Wednesday evening, some clouds are going to be rolling into the valley. Looks like a slight chance of some storm action as well. Low of 58. Those clouds are going to stick around for Thursday. Partly sunny skies, cooling off to about 84, then back up to about 90 for Friday. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina, thank you very much, and brought to everyone again this hour by Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. These are people that really care about you, your family, and your business, and as I said, they've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cache area for well over 50 years. The best, Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. My good friend George Mass is right in the middle of planning and getting everything finalized for the 4th annual Patriotic Show and Shine that's going to be free to the public, and it's, of course, with the theme standing for the red, white, and blue. It's going to be at the Rupert Square in Rupert. Patriots Day is going to be Friday, September 13th on the square, and then the next day on the 14th they're going to have that great big car show, and also also the first annual Combat Veterans Memorial Ride. There's going to be bikes and floats and cars and food, lots of food, vendors, entertainment, you name it. And I just want you to be aware of the 4th annual Patriotic Show and Shine at the Rupert Square in Rupert. And it's, of course, the theme standing for the red, the white, and the blue. Also, a big thank you to our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Hello, people serving you with life insurance, health insurance. And by the way, don't let it go. Don't put it off. Don't put it off on the calendar and say, well, I'll get to that next Tuesday or maybe 3 weeks from now. No. Do it now. Call them, make an appointment, and let them serve you. The number, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. They are at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, very dedicated and responsive to your needs. Once again, located on Highway 24, Cameron and Siemens Insurance over in Rupert. Really good folks. Got time for one more quick call before we have to go to the news, so give me a jingle on the landline, if you would, please, at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Colin Kaepernick, very unfortunately, back in the news again. I wish this kid, this worthless kid, and he's a man now. I mean, what is he, about close to 30 or whatever? I wished he would just go away. The problems that he caused with the kneeling for our national anthem and, of course, the lack of respect for our flag and our country are sore spots that, with me, will not go away anytime soon. And now he's back up before the NFL season trying to drum up more hatred and more strife and more problems and telling his brothers, quote unquote, that agree with his absolutely imbecilic attitude against our flag and our country, stay strong, brothers. This from an unemployed quarterback. Hopefully he'll stay that way, unemployed, and never play football again. But he's trying to urge more people to get involved, more people to cause problems in the NFL, and take a knee or show complete disrespect for our flag and our country. I was really hoping that this issue was gone. This issue was behind us, and we could start enjoying the NFL for what it is, great sports entertainment. But when you have losers like Colin Kaepernick trying to stir the pot, I should say, doesn't look like it's going to go away anytime soon. What have we got coming up next hour? We've got Fred Birnbaum with the Idaho Freedom Foundation, and then at 10:30 this morning, another really, really good friend of our program, Dan Perkins, is going to be on the program. Don't miss that. Another quick note, on September 7th at 5 p.m., it's called the End of the Summer Barbecue at the Minidoka County Senior Center on the lawn west of the center, and they're going to have pulled pork and baked beans and corn on the cob potatoes and all kinds of salads and fresh fruits. It's only $10 per person, and there's only going to be 100 tickets sold. I would urge you to call the center number at 436-9107 and get your tickets now for the End of the Summer Barbecue at the Minidoka County Senior Center on September 7th. Right now, we're going to send it back over to Wheels, and we're going to go to CBS News. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. And a good morning to you and yours. And we're just tickled to death to have you with us in hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch, and we're brought to you by our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best of safe driving tires. Stop in and see them today. Along with some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And, of course, don't forget to Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. We're going to have our guest on in just a moment. I want to remind you, too, about our friends over at Patterson's at 421 East Main in Burley. Hello, Curtis and Lorena and the rest of the staff. They are really and literally the home for all your electronic needs, whether you need or are looking for a home theater system or video surveillance cameras, car stereos and speakers, complete sound systems, televisions. Well, they've got all kinds of TVs, Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs, everything right there for you at Patterson's, 421 East Main in Burley. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, closed on Sundays, of course. And the number to call if you have questions, 678-6997. Patterson's on East Main in Burley. Well, let's go to the phone line right now, and we have with us, with the Idaho Freedom Foundation, Fred Birnbaum. Fred, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm great. Thanks for having me on your show.
You know, Fred, I thought about how I wanted to get into this segment this morning, and I think what I'd rather do, rather than ask some questions, is I'm going to have you give us a little explanation about the organization you're with and what you do, and then we'll take it from there regarding our conversation about Common Core education. So go ahead. You have the floor for the first minute or so. Go ahead, please.
Well, for your listeners, I'm Fred Birnbaum with the Idaho Freedom Foundation. We're a free market think tank, public policy research institute. And one of the things that we do also is provide a service. We're a government watchdog. And we get into policies like Common Core that we don't believe are effective for the people of Idaho. And that's just one of the things we do. We review budgets and tax policy. But this morning I'd like to talk about Common Core because I think there's a lot of confusion about what it is and what it does.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the terminology Common Core education, what it is, what it does, like you just said. What's the origination and the thought behind creating Common Core?
Well, if you go back to about 2009, roughly that period of time, there was a view that the reason that students in America in general, not just Idaho, were not performing is that the standards for each school across the 50 states were not uniform and were not high enough or rigorous enough. So a white paper came out in 2009, don't you love the term white paper, which said that we need national standards, and the purpose of these standards would be to, of course, improve student performance and prepare students for college. And when I say standards, they're talking about performance standards. For example, in first grade, understand and apply properties of operations and the relationship between addition and subtraction. So a first grader should be able to do that. So people might think, well, that's great. You know, first grader should know addition and subtraction. What's wrong with Common Core? And what's wrong with it is it was rushed, and essentially states were incentivized, including Idaho, to brush aside what they were doing and adopt these national standards. And that's where the problem started.
Okay, when you say the problem started right there, let's go in and talk about the actual creation of the problem in a Common Core education that basically says one size fits all, one size is going to do all. Explain that a little bit.
Certainly. Well, one of the first problems with Common Core was that the standards that were written, again, these are performance standards, it was very rushed. So there are a lot of people who believe, meaning people who have experience teaching, just for example, math and English, that these standards were written by people who didn't have the requisite classroom experience. So, for example, the English language arts, the notion was that in English class we should focus kids on how to better read technical texts like biology books and things so they'd be better prepared for college. And it was very dismissive of literature and classics. Mm-hmm. A lot of English teachers will tell you the way kids learn to think and improve their vocabulary is by reading the great books that we've all read, you know, for decades or even centuries in some case. So this sort of broad brush approach that, no, we need to get kids who are reading English to focus on more technical things that was just an assumption that wasn't proven.
Uh-huh.
And that was one of the problems. And the promise, and I want to sort of jump into the next piece, was that if we did this, we would get improved test results. And that hasn't happened. So one could argue, well, Fred, you don't know what you're talking about. These standards are great, but these standards were supposed to improve test results. And as we all read constantly, tests nationally, for the most part, have flatlined or declined in the last 7 or 8 years. So we could argue about whether or not these are the appropriate performance standards, but they did not improve student performance. And I'd like to shift to Idaho in a minute.
Fred, let me ask you this question right there, and I'm going to jump in and I'm going to act like I know nothing about Common Core with naive questions, but I think the audience, a lot of people would like to ask the same thing. Did Common Core really start with a concept of trying to push, if you will, college educations for all students?
Well, the notion was that, yes, students should be college ready who leave high school. I don't think it necessarily insisted that they all go to college, but college readiness was one of the organizing principles of Common Core. Yes, that's correct.
And so the actual concept is basically trying to go, and again, I apologize, maybe my verbiage isn't correct, on a top-down type education, serving the best on top and not really concerning themselves with the bottom rung of students. Am I wrong on that?
Well, I would say you're half right. It certainly was a top-down approach because there were national standards, but I don't think they were actually well designed to serve students of really any category. In other words, high-performing students weren't necessarily well served, nor were the bottom rung. In fact, there was an academic paper written critiquing Common Core, and the title of the paper is Why Race to the Middle? First-class state standards are better than third-class national standards. And the concerns were that these standards were rushed, and there were some very good state standards. And I think this sort of gets to one of the core issues that we have at the Idaho Freedom Foundation, and many people do, with what's happening in this country. And that is the sort of the substitution of these buzzwords for actual good policy. So they say, well, we're going to raise the standards with the view these professionals and these experts, with the view that, well, if quote unquote we just raise the standards, that's going to improve performance. And many of us who've gone through the public school system realize that it's good teachers focused on their students. Of course they need to have performance standards, but we've been teaching children for hundreds of years, and sort of in this 2-year period, this notion that we can replace all the state standards with these national standards, and it would be better, a rushed approach, a top-down approach, and really sort of aiming for the middle, if you will, kind of coming up with this concept that will teach to the middle. Somehow that won't hurt the ones who need more help, and it won't hurt the ones who are above the middle. That's the false premise of the whole approach.
Let me ask you this question, and it is due to our population that shifts and changes because of season and climatic conditions with employment coming in for agriculture, etc. Those test scores are always going to be changing and have an influx of change, and the criteria that has to be learned is going to be a little tougher for certain segments of our society. How does this play a part on test scores that are not adoptable to a national criteria?
Well, you ask a very good question, Zeb. When they do the testing in Idaho and every state, they do compile data that's an aggregate, meaning all students, but then they do break it apart by different ethnic groups to the extent that they can do that. And so you can, quote-unquote, correct for the fact that we have seasonal workers and others. So even when you do that, if you look at the last few years, for the most part, Idaho's performance has been flat. That's been reported by most major news organizations. Recently, there was a slight improvement, at least the preliminary numbers on the reading indicator. But when you have only half of the kids reading at grade level, and that's the weighted average, that's not a good thing. And you're right, it does vary across the state from group to group. I would like to shift a little, though, to Idaho and our specific objections to Common Core in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened in Idaho was that the state was incentivized, it was quote-unquote race to the top grants to adopt Common Core. And we renamed it, we rebranded it. It wasn't something we did it initially. Initially, we just called it sort of Idaho Common Core Standards. And they were rebranded in 16 and 17 to Idaho Content Standards, and some of that's happened more recently. But essentially, we adopted the standards, and they're copyrighted, and they're inflexible, so you can only add things like what they did for English, cursive writing. So basically, Idaho has adopted these standards, and Idaho's results haven't improved either, which follows national trends. And now, the reason you and I are talking about this, coming up August 21st, there's a hearing on whether Idaho should retain Common Core Standards, which have been renamed and rebranded Idaho Content Standards, but they're largely the same thing. And one of the objections that people should have is that the State Department of Education has gone around saying, we don't have Common Core, we have Idaho Content Standards, and they're different. They're virtually the same. And I think it's very important that people know that they know that the performance hasn't improved. And a lot of teachers, and of course I don't have the data, but if you know teachers, ask them privately what they think about these standards and if they're the most effective way to teach. And we've heard privately from teachers that they're not.
When you, this hearing, what does it hope to achieve? I know that there's going to be a series of these hearings, if you will, and this one coming up on Wednesday. Tell us a little bit more about the time and where, etc.
So the hearing is Wednesday, August 21st from 6 to 9:30 p.m., and the reason it's that long is to allow people to sign up, so you can sign up and testify. It's at the College of Southern Idaho, Hepworth Building, room 108. College of Southern Idaho, Hepworth Building, room 108. And I would recommend that if anyone is interested, they can go to our website, idahofreedom.org/education, and we have a summary of talking points, if you will, and research on Common Core. And we are more than open to the notion that someone might read it and say, well, I don't want to testify, or I feel that maybe it's okay. But we believe that if the average person read what Common Core is about and what it has not achieved compared to the promises that were made, that they would ask during that hearing that the Common Core adoption, which they're adopted in rules, administrative rules, be rescinded, be repealed, and that Idaho find better standards. And there are examples from other states that have used different content standards. There are a lot of professional educators who some have the view that they were good ones. The Iowa basic ones were very good, or that Massachusetts had some very good standards on math and English. The point is, these standards are not doing what they said they would do. They're not popularly supported. They do also get into political realms. For example, the science standards push the notion that global warming is human caused. They're not open to and these are the standards, again, not the curriculum, that global warming could have many causes. So they're political in nature. They're not effective, and I think it would be important for people who are interested and who care and would like to take the time to show up on Wednesday evening and express their views. And I think if their parents, particularly who have children in school now would be the time to say, let's take a pause, let's take a step back, let's put in place standards that work for Idaho, not standards that were imposed by the Obama administration.
Yeah, and this brings up another point of questioning on my part. And Wheels, again, the feedback on the line, please. Who being an entity or groups of people, et cetera, Fred, that are really pushing, I mean, getting behind the wagon and pushing Common Core so that it's accepted? And what purpose? I mean, what organization is funding this and helping to promote it so that it is accepted all across the board?
That's a great question, Zeb. Initially, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation pushed this back in the day. And actually, Bill Gates had the honesty to say, I have to admit, Common Core did not improve the results as I had hoped or expected. So that was one entity. So you do have these non-governmental organizations pushing Common Core then. As it stands now, my belief is a lot of it is inertia. And that is, now that the bureaucracy has adopted these standards, and I'm talking about the State Department of Education, the State Board of Education, they just are reluctant to change because they're change resistant. And they think, oh my gosh, we don't want to revisit this and do all the work. So, not speaking nationally, but within Idaho, the Secretary of really everybody involved in the education establishment, I don't know anyone, but Superintendent Ibarra supports the standards. Now, she has said that we've changed them and they could further evolve, but as they exist now, the Superintendent Ibarra and her office support these standards, and as far as I know, I have not heard any objections from professionals in either the State Board of Education or the State Department of Education. And I think they can explain their reasons. I won't explain why they support them. I think part of it is inertia. But the fact of the matter is these were top-down. Idaho did adopt them. Idaho claimed that they were different from Common Core, and they're over 90% the same, as we demonstrate in our talking points. So now is a good opportunity, we believe, since we have 4 hearings, and the closest one to your area is in Twin Falls on the 21st. There's one tonight in Nampa. For ordinary Idahoans to say, now wait a minute, these standards didn't do what was expected. They were imposed nationally. We need to pick the standards that work for Idaho's kids.
What about the aspects of special education for special needs students? Does Common Core address anything for those students at all?
Well, there are a lot of standards, and I do believe, I'm not positive on this, so I'm thinking that there are some standards incorporated by reference for special needs students. I don't have as much information on that, honestly. So I hesitate to speak with any authority in that area.
So the way I'm interpreting a lot of the Common Core philosophy is that it is a cut and dried, like the Ten Commandments on stone, and there is to be no variance or very little variance by the teacher and or the classes away from anything that may lead to more discussion points or create discussion points. It sounds very regimented and very dictative to the schools as far as I'm concerned. How wrong am I?
Well, you're largely correct because the standards are copyrighted, so you can't change them. You're allowed to add to them, but you can't fundamentally change them. So that's actually a very accurate comment. And the addition piece is up to 15%. So if a state has a standard on math, and they've adopted these, they accept the standard on math. But if they want to add another element, they can add another element. But they can't change the basic elements because of the way they're structured. So you're correct.
Yeah, Fred, let's talk about math, my poorest subject in school. I'm not proud of it at all, but the transitions in thinking of mathematics and how the application of answering questions, etc. Have we got away from the simplistic approach, which is right and wrong, and tried to read too much into it? Is that one of the problems?
I think, in a word, yes. There's a lot of debate, perhaps, on what the best way to teach math it really is. And there are people who are math professors who would suggest that the Common Core methodology is not an effective way. And I think the debate answers itself because the performance on math tests hasn't improved. So if the standards were better, we would expect improvement because we're investing time and resources. So that might be getting into the weeds to discuss why the approach to teaching math on Common Core is not as effective, but the results are not getting better, and I think that's important. All of us in Idaho have the expectation that because we invest so much money in education, and we've invested a lot more in the last half a dozen years since we came out of the recession, that results should improve. Even, you talked about seasonal workers, but we can separate groups and districts. We're talking about across the state. And since the results haven't improved, anytime you do anything in life, when you try something that doesn't work, you reevaluate. And that should apply to government and education as well. And if the premise was, let's do this, we're going to raise the standards and improve results, and the results haven't improved, then the natural thing to do is to say, well, let's go back and look at the standards, and perhaps these are not the right fit for Idaho.
Absolutely. And there I would interject and ask the final question with the time remaining. Wouldn't education as an entity within every state be better served by having overseeing from the state itself and not from a common core curriculum that's forced from a central government?
Yes, and that's always been the American way, is that states have a unique role in developing their performance standards, and then what flows from that, their curriculum. And we still do curriculum more or less locally in Idaho. But these performance standards push the curriculum in a direction that probably also is not appropriate for Idaho. And I think one of the examples I gave was the next generation science standards and the sort of global warming mantra. So that's absolutely right. We're not getting better results. We've spent a lot more money in the last few years on education. It's time to reevaluate. These should not be set in stone, this Common Core. Just because we've been doing it for a few years is not a reason to continue doing it. And if you're running a business and you put in a new standard in, say, 2011, and now it's 2019 and you weren't getting the results, or whatever it was, a plan, a project, after 8 years, wouldn't you say, gee, I ought to reevaluate? In fact, you might say after 4 years or 2 years. But this notion that, well, we need to give it more time, 8 years is almost the entire grade, school, and junior high of many students. I mean, it covers most of their education in the public school system. So we can't afford to do this to Idaho kids, which is wait another 8 years.
Absolutely. Fred, give us the meeting time on Wednesday again and all the particulars. I'm almost out of time. Quickly.
So idahofreedom.org/education is the particulars. The meeting time is Wednesday, August 21st, 6 to 9 p.m., College of Southern Idaho, Hepworth Building, Room 108.
Fred Birnbaum, I appreciate you being on the program, and thank you, and come back soon. We'll discuss this again. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Idaho Freedom Foundation, and talking about Common Core in that meeting this Wednesday in Twin Falls. Very, very interesting. I've got to run and get to the news at the bottom of the hour in just a moment, but I want to remind you that there's going to be an open house this Thursday, the 22nd, at, of course, our friends with Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living on Alfresco Road in Heyburn. What they're going to do is they're going to come over, Matt and Kelly Wiggins, and talk to us at Lunch Bunch at Denny's Restaurant. Then we're all going to go over there and get a guided tour of a wonderful, wonderful place for seniors to live in and enjoy and be with their friends. Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living. And again, that's on 21st Street in Heyburn. Don't forget the number to call, 650-4979. I'll repeat that, 650-4979. And they'll set up an appointment to show you around Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living. Absolutely a beautiful place for seniors. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take this break, and I'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
There's a gentleman that's been on my program for a long, long time, and I have the utmost respect for him and his ability to kind of sort things out, shake the trees, and see what's going to hit the ground politically. He's nationally recognized as an expert on foreign policy and energy, and I'm proud to have him as a friend on this program. Dan Perkins, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb, and as always, it's a pleasure to be with you.
You know, Dan, just a note away from what I was going to talk about this morning, are you anywhere close in Florida to the Jacksonville, Florida area?
Actually, it's Jacksonville is north and west of us, east of us. So we're in southwest Florida, outside of Fort Myers in the Gulf of Mexico. Jacksonville is in the far northeast corner of the state.
Right.
Long trek from here to there.
And I was very concerned as to, I understand they've lost track of a couple of firefighters that were on a fishing trip off the coast of Jacksonville, and I didn't know if that was anywhere close to where you were or not.
No, it's not. It's about probably 4 hours, 4.5-hour drive.
You know, let's get right to the situation at hand this morning, Dan. And you've been so good at sorting things out when you've been on this program. I have never, and I'm an old man, I've never seen so much negativity in politics today as we're seeing today. So much hatred, so much vile, so much contempt, so much absolute not caring for the fellow man attitude. I don't think we can ever heal this thing up again. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a very, very keen observation, Zeb. I have great concerns. I was on a show this morning, and I said, I cannot get my head around this concept that 47% of the people in this country are in favor of socialism and communism. I can't swallow that. And the idea that we are being led down the path that all of these socialists in the Democratic Party who are running for president are going to be competitive against Donald Trump. My guts tell me that's not true. Yet I continually hear all of the polling data saying that Mr. Trump would lose to any one of the three major contenders in the Democratic Party. And I listened to Joe Biden, who his team took him off the road last week because he had made so many gaffes. They decided to give him a vacation. And what does he do the very first day he's back from vacation? He screws up in his first 10 minutes. So I can't believe that there are 47% of the people in the United States who want Joe Biden to be president of the United States, or Kamala Harris, or Bernie Sanders, or Elizabeth Warren. I mean, I heard last Friday Bill O'Reilly say, if Pocahontas gets the nomination, if she becomes president, I'm leaving the country. And I'm not going to be like these fair weather liberals who say they're going to leave if Trump got elected and stayed. I'm leaving. Because the idea that she's going to confiscate my assets, not my income, she's going to take my income, but she wants to confiscate my assets by putting a tax on my assets, I'm not going to stay here. There's a part of me, Zeb, that says that the American people are not buying this horse crap. And that the reaction is that I still believe that Mr. Trump is going to win somewhere in the neighborhood of 48-2.
Okay, now, I'm not going to buy into this horse manure either, but Dan, my question goes back a little bit further than just the 47% that are absolutely bent on socialism, etc. Where did this idea ever start to prevail itself in our education systems, in our schools, colleges, universities, etc., and in our homes, toward this idiocy of replacing the greatest country in the world with a capitalistic format and going socialist to where we're going to end up like Venezuela? Who in the hell is promoting this?
Well, can I change your question just a little bit?
Yes.
Who in the hell started this?
Very good.
If you'll accept that question as a premise.
Absolutely.
To your question, you're not going to like it, but we did. We did because, and I'm going to give you an example right now, what's going on. We meaning the conservatives in this country, in my opinion, abandoned the country. And let me give you an example. I just wrote a piece, and I talked about the fact that Twitter decided they were going to suspend Mitch McConnell's campaign website because he broadcasted the physical threat to him, stab him in the heart threat, and they said it was unacceptable. He didn't write the story. He didn't do the story. He didn't make the announcement. Somebody else did. Not on his campaign. Somebody out there standing in front of his house threatened to stab him in the heart. Now, there's a law on the books under 18 Code, subsection 155, that says any threat to the president, vice president, their spouses and family members, or elected members of Congress on their lives is a felony, subject to fine and imprisonment to 5 years. And when people threatened Barack Obama, the Justice Department arrested them, prosecuted, and sent them to jail. But we have, the day after Donald Trump took office, we had Madonna standing in the Women's March saying that she had thoughts about blowing up the White House. Last year we had Peter Fonda saying that he wished that we could rip, his word, not mine, rip Barron Trump from his mother's arms and throwing him into a cage with 2 pedophiles. Neither of those people were arrested or indicted. The woman who made the pronouncement about stabbing Mitch McConnell in the heart was on camera. So I wrote this article, Zeb, addressing it to Attorney General Barr. What is it? Why are we not enforcing the law? If we do not enforce the law, these threats are going to become more and more violent, and people are going to die. The reason why we don't enforce them, Zeb, is because we try and get along with everybody. He didn't really mean it, so we're not going to press him. But the people who threatened Barack Obama, they took it seriously. Mm-hmm. They arrested them, put them in jail, and that was it. If we, going back to your question, if we don't think enough about America to stand up for it as the education system was changing in this country, then the people that are to the blame for what's happening today is us.
Well, I can't argue your premise at all that it is us, but now we're at a point where we look at Antifa, like what happened in Portland a couple of weeks ago. It could have been another riot this weekend, and we're seeing this happen all across the board. Dan, I'll tell you, anybody that's a conservative, like myself, and my wife and my family, anybody that's a conservative right now has to fear for their health, has to fear for their welfare, has to fear for their rights as American citizens to speak out and say that they stand up for the Constitution. This isn't the America that I graduated from college from, I'll tell you that.
I agree. I totally agree. Let me take one thing you just said there and just add a little meat to the bone. Antifa. I've written about Antifa before anybody knew about Antifa. But let me tell you what Antifa is. It's the new generation Ku Klux Klan. Now, they don't wear white robes. They wear black robes. And they cover their faces just like the Klan. But keep in mind, Zeb, that the Democratic Party started the Klan. And the Democratic Party is supporting Antifa. Mm-hmm. Says nothing about their activities. So Antifa is the new Ku Klux Klan started by the Democratic Party. We don't have an equivalent to that. Now, when those people in Seattle over the weekend were arrested, or Portland, whichever one it was, who were on the right protesting what Antifa was trying to do, they were arrested. But when Antifa was protesting, what did the mayor say? Leave them alone. Don't arrest them. Stand down. So we have a dual system of justice. It all started when we when we decided that it was okay to have a war on poverty started by Lyndon Johnson, which basically took the father out of the household and replaced them by the government. And so we spent $22 trillion. And what have we gotten? We have riots in the streets. We have black people killing black people in Chicago and Baltimore and Philadelphia and on and on and on. We don't have a better country because of what happened. We have an education system that is biased with the new curriculum that they have. There was a huge uproar in California last week. You might have saw that in the American history when they were they were literally revising history. I have as a person who has studied history all my life, it's one of the few things that I liked in school. The idea that we are trying, that if we tear down the statues of the Southern generals who led the South in the Civil War, we somehow erase who we are. We can't erase who we are. It's part of us. It's part of us as a nation. And to not teach it is not to give us, our children and grandchildren, the true rich experience, and I mean rich, both good, bad, and ugly, about the United States. Because we don't teach it, we don't really help them truly understand the greatness of our country. And we would rather sacrifice that, and here it comes, rather than make any waves. Republicans don't want to make waves. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and it's long past time that you stand up for what you believe. Because if you don't stand up for what you believe, then you don't really believe what you're saying.
You know, let me ask you, Dan, you've been on this program numerous times, and like I said when I introduced you again this morning, the utmost respect I have for you and your thoughts about politics. But right now, bottom line, before we take a caller, I want you to answer this question. What are your biggest fears right now this morning about leading into 2020 that the Democrats or the left, the evil left, will try their best to defeat Trump, whether it's legal or illegal? What are the number one things that you're the most afraid of this morning?
Well, that's a really good question. And nobody else has asked me that question on the air. I have an answer for you. But I'm a little bit nervous about giving it out, but because you asked, and I respect you, and you've had me on your show many times over the years, my greatest fear is that the rhetoric on the left leads to an assassination.
Wow. And I know that what you're saying is from the heart, and I've said also the same thing to various groups and friends of mine, that I'm very concerned about the violence factor in this country and what might happen if it looks like it's going to be a shoo-in for Donald Trump to win re-election. That doesn't say much at all for the political structure and the population in this great country, America. It puts us down at a third world rate country.
Right. Now, I would say to you, did you want to get to that caller?
Yeah, we'll take that caller, and then we'll finish up with this. Caller, real quick, I've got about 4 minutes left, if you would, please, quickly.
Well, this morning, Zeb had a caller earlier talking about the people in Asia who are, trying to get some respect from the Chinese government, and they have American flags, and they're singing our anthem, apparently, which I didn't know, or they're saying the pledge. One of the two, but they're more patriotic to the people that live here and take it for granted. I'll hang up.
Respond to that caller, please, Dan, if you would.
The greatest injustice, in my opinion, is that a lot of people, a very large percentage of the people, and I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, I mean it's because the way the news is skewed. A lot of people don't really know what's going on. They really don't. When people saw Robert Mueller testifying before the House committee, for many people it was the first time, by listening to the Republicans who were talking about the issues, that they ever heard about it, because the mainstream media has never presented them. And I think that's part of the problem. Because we have a controlled media, because the media is so biased, there's an awful lot of people who don't know what's going on. I think that the presidential campaign and the reports coming out from the Inspector General, the two states' attorneys, and the Attorney General over the next 6 to 8 months are going to be devastating because they provide information that was never given to the American people. There is a story that came out this past weekend that the Chinese had hacked into Hillary's server and has, according to Senator Grassley, who released a letter indicating that they believe that the Chinese have all of the missing emails because they were able to get in and watch what she was doing instantaneously. So that we're going to learn more. And I really think that this is going to be a surprise for you, I think. In order for us to change the country, we have to go through a catharsis. And I believe what that catharsis will be the indictment of Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm going to leave it.
The twist is, Zeb, if he's indicted, that President Trump will pardon him.
Really? You know, Dan, every time you've been on the program, you have been spot on with your prognostications and what you think is going to happen politically. I'm out of time, but I'm going to have you back in the next couple of days because there's other areas of questioning I wanted to get into this morning. Nationally recognized expert on foreign policy and energy, great author, and besides that, a great man. Dan Perkins, thank you for being on the program this morning. Thank you.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Zeb. Thank you.
Yes, sir. God bless. Thank you very much. Wheels, we do have a little bit of feedback on the line. I don't know what's the matter with our line this morning, but maybe it's not on the air, but it's coming down the line to me, so that must be the part of the problem. I'm having a hard time hearing our guests. But right now we're going to have our weather forecast, and we'll work on that, and hopefully it'll get better tomorrow. Scarrow's Meats. I want to say a big shout-out and thank you to Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew. Oh, my goodness sakes, the most delicious of meats over at Scarrow's Meats in Jerome. 331 North Road, Jerome. Go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, or give them a call on the landline. Oh, yes, 324-7657. All the delicious meats. Maybe you're having a great big Labor Day party with your business or your family or whatever. Be sure to get your orders in for what you need right now. Call them, 324-7657. Scarrow's Meats over in Jerome. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Grab your water bottle and keep it handy because it's going to get warm over the next couple of days. Here's a look at your weather forecast as we kick off this work week. For today, we are expecting sunny skies, highs of about 91. Tonight, nice and clear with a low of 57. Pretty much the same for tomorrow, sunny, low 90s, 93 for Wednesday. Looks like Wednesday evening, some clouds are going to be rolling into the valley. Looks like a slight chance of some storm action as well. Low of 58. Those clouds are going to stick around for Thursday. Partly sunny skies, cooling off to about 84, then back up to about 90 for Friday. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Going to be a little warm, man. That's summer, but you know what? It's all going to be over way too soon, and then we're going to be complaining about the colder temperatures. Our weather brought to you this hour by Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The telephone number to call, 324-7657. Go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, and always remember this. For the most delicious meats, it's Scarrow's Meats, and they're changing the way we eat. Yep, one delicious bite at a time. What have we got coming up tomorrow on the program? Dan Kish with the Institute for Energy Research. We've got Dr. David Hobberg coming on. Dr. History is going to be on the program tomorrow right here in the studio, and other guests. We've got a whole bunch of national people coming on the program tomorrow. A quick reminder, we're going to be at Denny's Restaurant this Thursday at 11:30 for our monthly Zeb's Lunch Bunch. I urge you to be in attendance at America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Our thanks go out to our door prize donors, Walmart, Smith's Foods, Hanson Mortuary, Stokes Grocery, Doug Martin, and Denny's. And we're going to gather there at 11:30 this Thursday, and we urge you to come down and be a part of all the fun and just enjoy a great meal and maybe walk out of there with a couple of gift certificates. You never know. All of this at Zeb's Lunch Bunch this Thursday at 11:30 at Denny's Restaurant in Burley. Want to remind you, too, about our major sponsor, and that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the absolute best of tires. When I say that, that's not brag, that's a fact. For your cars, your pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, camp trailers, everything, they've got all the tires, all the tread designs, all the sizes for you. Stop in and see them today. And don't forget, too, the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. They really provide a service for your safe driving. So stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. Absolutely the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Did I say the Twist family in Paul? I thought I did. If I didn't, I'll repeat it again. All 7 locations serving you, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Tomorrow morning, 8:06, we'll ride the horse again for 3 hours and be right here on KBAR 1230 a.m. and then streaming live on ZebBell.com all over the world. We always wrap up the program by saying the way things were, the way things ought to be, and, of course, the world needs more cowboys. But a slogan that means more to us than anything else, in God we trust. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.